The Ford 302 Windsor wasn't just an engine, it was a secret weapon, designed to take on Chevrolet, yet hidden away by its very own creators. A motor so versatile that it dominated everything from NASCAR tracks to the brutal deserts of Baja. So powerful that Ford had to lie about its true capabilities, and so revolutionary that more than 50 years later, it's still one of the most coveted small blocks ever built. This is the untold story of the little V8 that became a legend. The engine Ford tried to keep in the shadows of its bigger brothers, but one that ended up outshining them all, the 302 Windsor, the giant that refused to die. It's 1968. Vietnam is raging, students are protesting in the streets, and in Detroit, a very different kind of war is being fought, the muscle car war. Every brand is battling to build the fastest, most powerful machine, the kind of car that makes the young dream and the old nostalgic. Ford is in trouble. The trusty 289 can't keep up with Chevy's new 350 or Mopart's 340. Something new is needed, something that could stand toe-to-toe with the competition. But there's a catch. The AMA agreement officially limits engine size and horsepower. Out of this high-pressure environment was born the 302 Windsor, an engine that, on paper, followed all the rules, but in reality was designed to deliver far more than Ford ever admitted. The 302 didn't appear out of nowhere. It was a direct evolution of the successful 289, which itself descended from the pioneering 221 small block of 1962. Ford's small block family had already proven its worth, but it needed to grow. Led by legendary engineer Don Frey, Ford's team took the 289 block and increased the bore to 4.00 inches while keeping the 3.00-inch stroke. The result was 302 cubic inches, or 4.9 liters of raw American muscle. But what made the 302 special wasn't just its size, it was its engineering. Unlike its rivals, the Windsor used a thin-wall block casting with strategically reinforced areas, making it lighter yet just as strong. A forged crankshaft, high-strength rods, and aluminum pistons gave it remarkable durability, while an improved oiling system allowed it to withstand high RPM abuse without breaking down. When Ford introduced the 302 Windsor in 1968, they marketed it as a modest performance engine, 220 horsepower in base form and 230 with a 4-barrel carburetor. Respectable numbers, but nothing earth-shattering for the time. And here's the twist. Those numbers were lies. Independent testing years later revealed the 302 was actually making between 250 and 275 horsepower, depending on setup. Ford had deliberately underrated it. The reason came down to insurance, corporate politics, and marketing strategy. In 1968, insurance companies had begun charging higher premiums for cars with high horsepower engines. At the same time, Ford didn't want the 302 to compete directly with its larger, more expensive big blocks, like the 390 and 428. Internal documents later confirmed it. Ford's management issued direct orders to keep the 302's rating under 250 horsepower, no matter what it was truly capable of. This practice, known as underrating, was common in the muscle car era. Chevrolet usually fudged the numbers by 10 to 15%. Ford? They slashed the Windsor's output by more than 20. The clearest proof came in 1969 when Ford introduced the Boss 302 for Trans Am racing. On paper, it was rated at 290 horsepower, only 60 more than the standard Windsor. In reality, dyno tests showed the Boss made 330 to 350 horsepower, and the regular Windsor wasn't far behind. By underrating the 302, Ford was able to sell cars that were far more powerful than advertised, keeping insurance premiums low while protecting the sales of its big block models. Despite Ford's attempts to downplay it, the 302 Windsor's true potential couldn't stay hidden for long. In NASCAR, teams often used it on shorter, more technical tracks, where agility mattered more than raw power. Its lightweight and high RPM response made it a weapon. But its biggest moment came in Trans Am, with legends like Parnelli Jones and George Fulmer behind the wheel. The Boss 302 went head-to-head with Chevrolet's Camaro in some of the fiercest battles in American racing history. In 1970, the Boss 302 powered Ford to the Trans Am Constructors' Championship, defeating Chevy, Dodge, and AMC. It was proof that the little Windsor could not only compete, but win. The 302 also conquered the dirt. In the grueling Baja 1000, Ford Broncos equipped with modified 302s dominated for years. Legendary race builder Bill Strope once said, Give me a well-built 302 and I'll give you an engine that can run flat out for 24 hours without braking. He proved it with multiple victories in Baja. Then came 1970, and with it confusion. Ford introduced the 302 Cleveland, another small block with the same displacement but a different design. Officially, it was meant to be a higher performance engine with better cylinder heads, but many Ford engineers later hinted at another reason: politics. The Windsor's success was making the bigger, pricier engines look obsolete. Executives needed a premium option to justify higher prices, and the more complex Cleveland filled that role. Despite the hype, the Windsor remained the more widely produced and in many ways the more successful of the two. Its simplicity, durability, and ease of modification made it the favorite of mechanics and enthusiasts for decades. As one former engineer put it, the Cleveland was the engine we wanted people to admire. The Windsor was the engine people actually loved.
The Windsor was the engine Ford wanted people to buy. When the oil crisis of 1973 hit, it forever changed the American automotive industry. Suddenly, power was no longer the priority, efficiency was. The thirsty big block V8s fell out of favor, and many disappeared, but not the 302 Windsor. While engines like the 429, 460, and even the Cleveland slowly vanished, the Windsor survived. Why? Because Ford discovered that with the right adjustments, the 302 could be surprisingly efficient. In 1975, Ford released an economy-focused version with electronic ignition, a 2-barrel carburetor, and a softer camshaft. Power dropped to 140 horsepower, but fuel economy improved significantly. It was no longer the fire-breathing muscle car engine of the late 60s, but it was still a real V8, and for many Americans, that was what mattered most. During the bleak years of the malaise era, from 1973 to 1983, when most American cars were only shadows of their former selves, the Windsor kept the spirit of the V8 alive. It wasn't as powerful as before, but it remained a genuine engine, not a weak substitute. Then, just when nobody expected it, the 302 Windsor experienced a dramatic comeback. In 1982, when most automakers had abandoned performance V8s, Ford brought the Windsor back to life, rebranding it as the 5.0, named after its 5.0 liters in displacement. The engine was updated with new cylinder heads, a more aggressive camshaft, electronic fuel injection, and an improved exhaust system. Horsepower jumped to 157, then 175, and eventually up to 225 in the high-output HO version. While these numbers didn't quite match the underrated 275 horsepower of the golden era, in a time when most American cars struggled to reach 150, the 5.0 HO was a monster. When Ford dropped the 5.0 HO into the 1982 Mustang GT, a new icon was born overnight. The Mustang 5.0 became the ultimate affordable performance car of the 1980s and early 1990s. It was fast, it had the unmistakable growl of a V8, and most importantly, it was cheap and easy to modify. A whole culture formed around the 5.0, stretching from drag strips to the streets of Los Angeles. The distinctive rumble of the Windsor once again became the soundtrack of American youth. Songs like Vanilla Ice's Rollin' in My 5.0 celebrated the reborn muscle legend. The 5.0 HO didn't just save the Mustang, many argue it saved Ford itself, at a time when the company was fighting for survival. Its success brought in crucial revenue and, just as importantly, restored prestige to the brand. The original Windsor 302 was produced from 1968 all the way to 2001, an incredible run of 33 years. During that time, it powered millions of Ford vehicles, from humble F-150 pickups to legendary Mustangs and even exotic de Tomaso Panteras. But its legacy goes far beyond production numbers. The Windsor's design influenced Ford's next generations of engines, including the modern modular V8s and the latest 5.0 Coyote found in today's Mustangs. Even now, the Windsor remains one of the most popular engines for restorations and custom builds. Its balance of power, reliability, and massive aftermarket support makes it ideal for hot rods, resto mods, and just about any project requiring a trustworthy American V8. What once started as a 220 horsepower engine, closer to 275 in reality, has been pushed far beyond what its creators ever imagined. With reinforced blocks, aluminum heads, modern fuel injection, and superchargers, today's Windsor builds can easily produce 500 horsepower or more while still being reliable enough for daily driving. Carroll Shelby, who famously used modified 302s in his Shelby GT350s, once described it best: "The 302 is like a good workhorse. It's not the biggest or the fastest, but it never lets you down and always gives you more than it promises." The Windsor's influence also stretched far beyond the US, especially into Latin America. In Mexico, cars like the Ford Maverick, Fairmont, and LTD, equipped with the 302, became local icons. On Mexican tracks from the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez to the street circuits of the Marlboro Cup, Fords with the Windsor squared off against Chevrolets with the 350 in legendary battles that mirrored the Detroit rivalry on a Latin stage. But it was in the brutal Baja 1000 where the Windsor truly cemented its legacy south of the border. Broncos prepared by Bill Stroop with modified 302s dominated the desert for years, their thunderous roar becoming part of the soundscape of Baja California. Even today, at classic car meets in Mexico City, Monterrey, or Guadalajara, you'll find proud owners showing off their Mustangs and Mavericks with polished, customized 302 Windsors gleaming under the hood. Mexican racing legend Moises Solana put it perfectly. The 302 is like good tequila. You don't need much to feel its effect, but it always leaves you wanting more. The Windsor 302 was more than just an engine. It was a survivor. It adapted, evolved, and thrived while larger, more powerful motors faded into history. Its story proves that true success doesn't always come from being the biggest or strongest, but from being the most versatile and adaptable. The 302 was never Ford's most powerful engine, but it was the one that fit the times best, adjusting to shifting tastes, regulations, and challenges. And perhaps its greatest lesson lies in what Ford never openly admitted. They never boasted about the 302's real output, nor did they promote it as their crown jewel. But the racers, mechanics, and enthusiasts who truly knew the engine understood the secret, that behind its modest reputation was a hidden giant. Even more remarkable is how the 302 Windsor continues to matter today. A motor designed in 1968 is still relevant, desired, and respected more than 5 decades later. That isn't luck, that's engineering excellence. Have you ever had the chance to drive or work on a Ford equipped with the legendary 302 Windsor? Do you think any modern engine will ever match its longevity and cultural impact? Share your experiences in the comments, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and share. For more fascinating deep dives into the engines that shaped automotive history, subscribe and turn on notifications. This is The Garage. We'll see you in the next one.